Hello and welcome to an episode that I'm going to ambitiously call The Road to Super Shoe. You see, in just 2 weeks time frame from today, this car is going to hopefully be on the racetrack. Either that or the title of this episode is not going to age very well. Anywho, before we dive into the race car, if you watched the last late model episode, I'm sure you noticed there was a big lag between the beginning and the end of the episode, as well as a long time gap between that episode and the previous episode working on the car. Reason for that being, I ran into some stuff at work, ended up putting in just a redonkulous amount of hours. I didn't have time to work on the race car. And then some other things changed and it put a freeze on spending. I've since found a new job, been able to free things up for the late model again, start working on it, throwing some money that way, and had some family health issues come up. Ended up having to fly down to Florida a couple of times, and let's just say the airlines know exactly where they have you when you buy those last-minute plane tickets. Tell you what. Anywho, so unfortunately, during all of that, the entire season's pretty much slipped by. Super Shoe's the last race of the year. And because the year before last year's Super Shoe went so well, we're going to try it again. Now, I am excited to say we have an engine for this. Obviously, if we're going to try to make it and race, we need to have an engine. But unfortunately, before we can dive into that, we got to look back at the rear end again.
All right, in the last video, I know I said we were done with the rear end. Well, it turns out that since we were gone, I lied. Let me show you. Okay, cambered rear end, axle disconnected, and when I rotate it, very ka-chunk, ka-chunk, ka-chunk. And this is the cause of the ka-chunk, ka-chunka. This is a bearing race out of one of the rear hubs, and this sits inside the hub, and then the bearing rides along this little tapered, whatever you call it. And as you can see, it's full of all these little rust pits. So what that means is we have to hammer out all the bearing races, replace all the bearings, repack the new bearings with grease, and reassemble. While we do that, we might as well take apart and look at the brakes. So we are replacing all of the bearings all the way around the car. While we were doing that, we decided to take the calipers off, clean them up, pull them apart. I'll get into that a little later. Put new brake pads. Might as well throw some rotors on it. Should be good. However, because of, for whatever reasons, the people that had the car before me, if I put brand new brake pads on both sides, the caliper itself hits on this little ear here that your rim bolts onto. I can't space it to clear here. So what I have to do is take the new pad out, like so, and substitute it for a used pad, thus shimming the caliper away from these little ears, and that'll provide me enough clearance at least to get me through this race until I can spend a lot more money and change the brake system completely on this car, or maybe I can get a different adapter in here that'll space this out further. But for now, that's the temporary solution. As you can see, we got our brake caliper and our, jazz hands here. And as you can see, this thing is just, well, it's filthy. It's disgusting. So we're going to clean that up quick. Raided the wife's kitchen again. That's fine. Now, one of the best cleaners I've found, especially doing this on a budget,
you can get at, of all places, your local dollar store. Or at least my local dollar store. Your local dollar store might suck, but it's this stuff. Yeah, right there. Totally awesome cleaner. This stuff works absolutely amazing, and it costs a lot less than cans and cans and cans of brake clean. All right, we're gonna rinse this off with brake clean. This is as clean as it's gonna get. A lot of this is just baked on, stained. It ain't coming off. We'll get this rinsed off quick, blow dry it, and then I'm gonna show you how we're gonna pop out these pistons, start cleaning those up. Okay, we got this rinsed off. I know some of you are probably wondering, well, why didn't I just use brake clean to clean all of this if I was going to use it to rinse it off? And the answer to that is, have you seen the price of brake clean lately? Yeah, I'd rather just rinse it off quick and use the cheap stuff to actually clean it, and instead of cases of brake clean. Anywho, what we're going to do now is we're going to try to get the pistons, the brake pistons, out so we can inspect them, clean them up, take a look at the little O-rings that are inside and there, and make sure everything's just as it should be. Now, I've got what was actually a shim placed right here. It's the back of an old brake pad that they had wedged in on one of these calipers. Got this side C-clamp shut. I got this piston C-clamp shut. So that way the only one that's going to move is going to be this one right up here. And I'm actually going to control the movement with another C-clamp. And I'm just going to set it there. And I'm going to give it, about a 1/4 inch or so of movement. I just don't want that piston to go shoot right on out of there. Now, normally, I would use a rubber-tipped air nozzle and shoot it out. I've got this steel-tipped guy that looks like it got run over by something. Not going to work. But what I do have is a rubber tire valve, complete with the bell end, and an air nozzle. So we're going to hillbilly this up a little bit. Put that on there. Let's see if you can see this thing shoot out. Cups out. Now I can clean this up. I'll inspect that O-ring, and then we're going to go and do it to all 4 of them. Put them back together, and then it's ready to drop in the car. And we use a little bit of brake fluid to lube it up. Line it up in the cylinder, and if it's done right, it should slide right on in. We have our wide 5 hub all cleaned up. We used a hammer, drove the old races out of this. They're junk. Drove new races in using negotiator and a wood block. Got those all properly seated inside here and on the back side as well. As you can see, we also got our brand new disc brake installed. Now we're going to put the new bearings in. We packed our bearings with, I don't know, which way's up on this? Right there, Micro Armor. This is some really good stuff. We used it a lot of the mini cups when we were running those. Definitely not cheap, put it that way. So then we're going to take and drop our greasy, gooey new bearing inside. Move our fingers on that. Got a brand new seal for the back. Which way's in? That way. And we're just going to tap it home, again, with the wood block. And negotiate it. Now the outside bearing here is held on by a nut assembly on the rear end. We'll jump to that next.
It was at this point in the video that the sound decided to stop sounding. Not a big deal. We'll just dub over it. No one will ever know the difference. Actually, now that I think about it, we could almost treat this like one of those old movies with a bad sound. So, to become race car driver, you must first become one with race car and whoa, insert soul into rear end. Whoa, bam! There goes the hub assembly. We're going to throw that on there. Now we're going to toss a little bearing in there, a little doohickey. And nut's going to go on there. I'm sure I'm telling all sorts of important information about not over-tightening it. And then I'm going to grab a wrench and over-tighten it anyways, apparently. And, oh, yeah, nope, don't like that. We're going to back that off way too far. There we go. Hey, now it spins right. And put a little bit of RTV on here, seal that up real nice. This is a little cap that goes on the drive shaft, transfers the power from the drive shaft to the hub assembly. And zip that on with a little impact gun. Burp, burp. And of course, got to put the little cap on. Squeak. There it is. The brand new old engine for the late model. This thing last ran in 2008. It's the old short track truck series engine. Let me tell you about it. It's a 305 stock crank, stock rods, 30 over pistons, stock Vortec heads, shiny-ish aluminum valve covers on it. It puts out a whopping 350 estimated horsepower, and the best part about it, it comes with its own roller skates. So we're going to try to revive this thing, get it running, get it in the late model, and hopefully this is what's going to rip us around for Super Shoe. All right, we got the new old engine all cleaned up, shinied up. I guess you could say I do know how to polish a turd. And now we got to swap out the old flex plate for the new adapter for the transmission. Now we're not going to run a thermostat, so we got to run a little resistor in there to slow the water flow down, put a new housing on. And then we need to swap out water pumps. There we go. We'll pull these off the old engine, put them on this one. And now we should be almost ready to drop this thing in the late model.
Now, believe it or not, we're actually most of the way through week 1 of our 2-week time frame to get this thing ready. Doesn't seem like it on video, but I actually spent a lot of time fighting with the bearings and the brakes on this car, trying to get everything right. Had to make a few parts runs up to the stores, order some more parts. We've got the brakes done. You know, on top of all that, I'm still working a full-time job, so I only get a few hours after work to come out here and do this. I'm just a regular guy like everybody else. And because that's not enough, I had to go and work on the Mini Cup car because we've got a double-header weekend this weekend. We're racing Saturday and Sunday with the Mini Cup. And for some reason, I thought it'd be a good idea to still try to do all of this. Anywho, so as you saw, we've got the engine cleaned up, all the accessories put on it. This thing has been sitting since 2008. So before we just plop it in the car and call it good, I want to give us the best chance possible that not only can we get this thing running, that it doesn't just immediately puke its guts out on the front stretch, causing a whole slew of issues for us and everybody behind us. So I pulled all the seals off of it. Actually, it was sealed up really good. I dropped the bore scope in each of the cylinders, looked at those. They look pretty decent. Now, before you're thinking I got these real high-end tools, it's a cheap Amazon one that you plug into your phone. It's nothing fancy, but it gets the job done. I shot some Marvel Mystery Oil into each of the cylinders. I used the wife's turkey baster to do that. Thank you for that. Gives it that nice minty flavor later on. Anywho, but before we just start cranking this thing over, again, this thing's sat since 2008. So I'm going to use this. What this is a little drive shaft that you can connect to your drill that you can put in to drive the oil pump on the engine without actually turning the engine over. Now you can make one out of an old distributor, say if you got one laying around. I actually was thinking about doing it, but this thing was so cheap on Amazon, I can't make it for that. So you drop it in here and you line it up on the teeth on the oil pump, and then I'll spin that around, prime the whole system, and just lube everything up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to run it for about 30 seconds, rotate the engine a quarter turn, run it for about another 30 seconds, and keep doing that process until I get about 2 revolutions on the engine, and that should be about 1 revolution on the cam. That way I can make sure all that oil is getting in and seeping down into all the little nooks and crannies it needs to get to because, well, like I said, this thing's been sitting since 2008. And quite frankly, if you've been sitting since 2008, you probably need a lube job too.
All right, it was like trying to fit a trapezoid peg in a triangle hole, or however that saying goes. I think a quadrangle was in there somewhere, but the engine's in. Holy cow. I definitely, if we're going to keep doing this, I need to get away from the 360-degree headers and get into like the crossovers or something that are 2 pieces that I can pull out and not have to mess with the headers and the engine at the same time. So while we were at it, we got fuel pump hooked up. We got the starter right there hooked up. Got the transmission in, drive shaft hooked up. Got the shift linkage doodads all hooked up, ready to go. Almost done under the car. So I've been fighting with this exhaust for a couple hours now, and I'll show you why. Right there. The exhaust is actually hitting the bell housing, and I can't get it to go far enough forward to get all my bolt holes to line up. And that pretty well sums up what working on this thing has been like. Okay, so big long pry bar and a handful of 4-letter words that we try not to feature here on Flipper's Garage. And we managed to persuade this to give us just a little more room. See, it's no longer hitting. And the rest of the exhaust, this whole Chinese finger trap or contraption is on.
It is Thursday night, the week of Super Shoe. Tomorrow, Friday night, is going to be optional practice. Saturday is going to be qualifying, heat races, and a couple of the slower features. And then Sunday, all feature racing. So we have got to crank on this race car. Now, yesterday, Wednesday, I dropped the camper off at the racetrack, came back home, got the car down on the ground, got rims, tires on it, got the roof put on. Now, the roof turned out great. I'm so geeked about this. If you tuned in on some of the previous episodes, as I was prepping the roof for this car, it actually came off the original late model, the white car. Sanding it down, I started to reveal all the previous paint schemes, and it kind of turned into this cool topographical green and blue camo design. I loved the way it looked, and I loved how it kind of showed some of the history of what that roof had been through and everything. And then my wife wanted to add her own personal touch to it, and she hand painted the number on the roof of the car. Of course, Her favorite color's purple, so the number's purple. Yep. All right, so we got that done. Tonight we're going to focus back on the front end of the car. We got to throw the carburetor on it, drop the distributor in the engine, and then hook up plug wires, everything. Hopefully, if we're lucky, we can get this thing to make some noise, and we're going to be really close to making it to race day. We already have our studs in place. Put just a splash of Loctite on the bottom of them just so they don't back out when we take the nuts off of them. Got our carb spacer in place. Got gasket, carb spacer, gasket. Now we're going to throw the carb on now. Now just a word of advice, guys. When you're putting these things on, you don't have to torque the bolts down to 90,000 foot-pounds of torque. I don't understand why guys do that. And just reef on them so that way they're sure to either pull out or back out the entire stud instead of the nut when you try to take it off or whatever. If it's leaking, if you're having problems, either check your intake and make sure it's not warped, or replace the gaskets. I mean, God, they're cheap enough. There's no reason you should have to reef on these things like some of the people I've seen do. So make sure that's down all the way. Throw some nuts on. All right, so we got the carburetor bolted down. Took and put the little distributor whirly gig, dropped that down in the hole. And I did read somewhere online about something to do with timing with those. So it's now it's 8 o'clock. So hopefully that's right. Now we just got to throw spark plug wires on, put a little fuel inside the carburetor, hook up the battery, then put a little fuel in the carburetor, and maybe we'll make some noise. All right, quick power test. We got power.
All right, so we don't have the fuel line, see it looped right over there, hooked up to the carburetor just yet. 2 reasons for that. 1, I don't want to risk sucking any water into this engine and running into all those problems all over again. 2, I'm going to follow the advice of another YouTube guy. I'm going to run bottle feed it on some of this because it hasn't been run in a while. So we're going to use some of this, let some of that 2-stroke oil. Now, if you've seen the program, his program, you know the deal. And to help us with that, I'm going to put it in this here squeezy bottle from the dollar store. Pour some right in the bowls. Thirsty. Spill some all over the place, that's fine. Spill a little more all over the place. And I haven't removed them yet, so I should probably ventilate my breathers. Huh, it's a good thing I did. I'll clean those up later. Come on. Come on. Thank you. All right. So for the first time since 2008 for this, and for the first time since I have put this chassis together, can we make noise? the odds of this starting greatly increase if you hook up the coil. Let's try that again. Ooh, that might be a little advanced. Okay. Man, if you knew how this feels. Look at all the rust that just blew out of there. It's alive! Holy crap, it made noise. All right, so the engine runs. That is a huge win in my book. As much as this car has fought me, to have something come together and work right is a win. It's a win. Regardless of how the weekend turns out, it's a win. So I'm extremely stoked about that. But I can't celebrate too much because we still got a long way to go. We got to get the cooling system figured out. I got to finish hooking up the rest of the oiling system, change the oil on the car, hook up the oil cooler, as well as oil pressure gauges, stuff like that. I got to go through and get a setup on the car, go through the front end geometry, get all of that figured out. I need to.
It was at this point I decided to get serious, buckle down, and work all through the night. The question is, would it be enough?
Good morning. It is Super Shoe Weekend. We're on the infield spot number 17, of course. And as you can see, we didn't make it. Beautiful wife Amanda there. Well, we tried. Unfortunately, came up a little short on this one. We got a really good start on next season. Still got a lot of setup work to do on it. I'm going to be learning that as we go along. In the meantime, appreciate you folks joining in, and make sure to like, share, comment, let us know what you think. Check us out on FaceTube or uBook or whatever that place is there with the little blue FU symbol. In the meantime, thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one.